So Hurricanes 2018 season preview. Last season for Chris Boyd to get that second Super Rugby title with the Hurricanes before he heads off overseas. I'm sure his players will be very motivated to do on for their coach, because he's been a really great coach for the team, and they'll definitely want to give him a good send off. There's been a few comings and goings with the squad. What's his name? Tongan Bear. He's left. I think he's a big loss because both on the pitch he was a bit of a beast. You don't get a name like Tongan Bear without being a pretty tough customer. Alonio Hila, that's his name. Off the pitch he was just a real character. So I think he's going to be missed. James Broadhurst and Mark Abbott, for different reasons, have left. Injury or concussion one, and just contract overseas the other. That's going to leave a bit of a hole in the squad. Apisai's gone to the Blues, couldn't get a spot because they got too much depth at hooker. Gibbons has gone off to Glasgow, which is a loss still. Tahuri Orangi has gone to the Chiefs in a swap with Christie. Black has gone to the Blues in a swap for West, and Corey Jane has gone back to Japan. So not a massive shift, but enough that there are a few talking points. So who's left? We've got Dane Coles, Ricky Riccatelli, Asafo Amua, Good, Smith, May, Tumanga, Allen, Eves, and Fidel. So this is another team where they've definitely got a ton of depth at hooker. I mean, you've got the All Blacks starting hooker in Dane Coles. And then you've got Ricky Riccatelli, who perhaps wasn't seen to be a massive player before last season. He was always seen to be decent, but when Coles got injured with his concussion issues, and Riccatelli had to just play the majority of the season as the number one guy, he didn't look out of place. He looked the business. So, he's proven himself. And Asafo Amua is a massive prospect for New Zealand rugby. He's the reason Apisai has had to go to the Blues. His potential is apparently pretty much at as high as it can go. So I don't know how they managed to keep the three of these guys happy, especially the two guys behind Dane Coles. Whoever's not playing is likely not going to be very happy to be sitting there not getting game time, because they're both still quite young. Toby Smith's come over from the Rebels. A few fans a bit annoyed that they're getting an Aussie, even though he's played for the Chiefs before. So, curious one. Ben May is one of the fans' less favourite players, I think, because of the amount of penalties he gives away. Fidel, along with Almua, was one of the Bash brothers. So he's another really exciting prospect to see how much he gets in terms of game time. Big try scoring prop, so maybe one for the fantasy team if he gets some regular game time. Tumanga Allen gets criticised for his scrum work, but he's fine. Eves is fine, and I think overall their front row will do the job. There's not many that you look and go, it's a 5-star front row, and I don't think they would be classed there because they did get bullied around a few times last season. But especially with the new scrum laws coming in, that the number 8 can just pick the ball up out of the back of the scrum with his hands, I can't see them having a whole lot of issues with their own ball. The locks and Lucy, so Fadialofa, Losi, Blackwell, Douglas, Walker, Leawere, Fafita, Adi Savia, Shields, Thompson, Princep, Evans, and Henwood. Fadialofa is going to need to have a big season with the departure of some of the other players like Abbott. He's got real good defensive drive. It's just I'd like to see him kind of carry the ball a bit more because he's a big guy. Lousy, with his league background, has got a pretty mean offload, so I'm hoping to see him carrying the ball. Blackwell or Douglas has come over from the Rebels, where I think he only got like 3 games. So what his part is going to be in the squad, I'm not sure. Blackwell didn't get a whole lot of game time last season either. Walker Leawere, he's a New Zealand under-20s player. He's had a few injuries, so he might get kind of sheltered minutes if he gets some game time. Fafita's good because he can cover lock. I mean, lock is one of the areas in the squad where you say they might be lacking a bit of depth, but Fafita can jump in there. He's great in the line out. And as a loose forward, he's just got great energy. He had a real breakout season last year, so he'll be a big player for the team. Speaking of big energy, Ari Savia, real dynamic player. Great loose forward to have on your team. Shields is an interesting one just because he is going overseas at the end of the season, something like the coach. So I don't think the coach is going to have any issues with that because what can he say? How do you leave? But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how he goes. I think he'll still probably get the starting spot. Thompson's a good one to have back because he had a shoulder injury last year, I think it was. Another player who's kind of can jump with the line out. He's a big ball runner, so injury free. He's very good player to have in your team. And you look at that and go, wow, that's some talent. Prinsep, he was fine last season, but again, behind guys like these, it's kind of hard to stand out. Evans has come over from the Highlanders, and Henwood from the Mitre 10 Cup. I think he previously played for the Chiefs. Fair bit of depth in the loose, more so than the locks, and very dynamic looking set of players. In the back, so Perinara, Christie, Booth, Bowden Barrett, West, Garden Bishop, and Va'a. Perinara is clearly your first choice halfback. He had a very good season last year. Christie will likely be the number 2 man. He's just come over from the Chiefs where he had a similar role behind Tawera Kubalo last season, and Booth is still a prospect. He'll probably be injury cover. Bodie will be Bodie, and he'll be the first choice guy. It's between High West and Jackson Garden Bishop to see who can get that second spot. They're kind of spoiled for choice here at 10, given that like all these guys have had a wealth of Super Rugby experience. I know Jackson Garden Bishop's only really had the one season, but he was pretty much the first choice guy in a poor Rebels team. So now he's either the second or third choice guy in a very good Hurricanes team. So we'll see if he gets much time. As a Blues fan, I'm just curious to see how West goes and see if they can get him over that line that he kind of seemed to peak at the Blues. Va'a's got a long job in front of him to get some game time. And this is, if you are a non-Hurricanes fan, is the section where you get real nervous because Aso, Lomape, Proctor, Umanga Jensen, Geordie Barrett, Lamb, Husson, Julian Savia, Milner Scudder, and Lowe. Yeah, Aso and Lomape scored a lot of tries last season, and I can't see that stopping for this season. Lamape's just got such leg speed that he can hit the ball like with such acceleration and then just bump people away. It's quite incredible to watch. He doesn't look like he should be able to run that fast. Proctor can have a good season. He was having a good season until he kind of had some issues with his, I think it was concussion. Umanga Jensen, he's still young, so will likely get time here and there. Geordie Barrett had a great season last year. He'll be one of the first names on the team sheet. Big, strong. I mean, compared to his brother, not the other brother, but this brother. Yeah, very, very good pair of hands and steady at the back for sure. Lamb didn't get a whole lot of game time last season, but he's quick. Husson had a very good season, and he can tackle really well for a guy his size. It's kind of surprising. Julian Savia will surely be pushing for All Blacks consideration, although he seems to be on the outer for whatever reason. But yeah, he's definitely got a point to prove that he's not done with the black jersey yet. Milner Scudder, if he can have an injury-free season, has all that potential that he's always shown to just keep doing those great little steps and runs that he does. But man, he just seems to get injured almost every year, much to my wife's dismay for some reason. And Jonah Lowe, he's looked good from what I've seen of him. He's played a preseason game the other day and looked pretty good. So it's Boyd's last season. Like I said, he's going to want to really try and push for a winning send-off. And it's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be a distraction because they're going to get it sorted soon from what I've read. but John Plumtree is the man in line to take over from Chris Boyd. So he's been the assistant during Chris's reign. And I mean, he's got experience at the top job with the Sharks, where he did a good job, but was kind of cut in unfortunate circumstances when John Smith took over as CEO of the Sharks. So he later said that cutting John Plumtree was a big mistake. So I don't think the Hurricanes would have much to worry about if John takes over the job. Supposedly there's going to be an announcement soon. As I record this, there has not yet been one. But yeah, I don't think his position's tenable if he doesn't get the job. But I mean, they've said before that they've always had a succession plan that John would take over after Chris. So we'll see if that stays true. So yeah, they were the top try-scoring team last season, and looking at the names on this board, I wouldn't imagine much shift there. They've got particularly good little set-piece moves, and Bowden does really good cross-field kicks. They don't kick a lot of penalties. The mindset of the team is to score tries, and last year Bowden's boot was not all that reliable. He was kicking at around 65%, so that remains a question, because Geordie was kicking a fair bit better than Bowden, but who does the kicking next season remains to be seen. I feel like there's still that potential for All Blacks influence, that they may have a word on who they would prefer to be doing the kicks. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they want Bowden to be kicking. But Bowden did kick better after the Super Rugby season was finished anyway, so one to watch. Speaking of Bowden, he does need to watch the yellow cards. He gave away, I think, 4. Got the sin bin 4 times. One of them was a double. So he got a red last season. The problem with that is you start to get a reputation with the refs that you might be a little bit dirty or a little bit cynical. More cynical with the stuff Bowden was getting penalised for. And you don't want that reputation, because then when you do something which is borderline in future, the ref is more likely to ping you for a penalty or for another yellow card. Someone's house must be burning down because there's a fire engine going past. So yeah, I think Bowden needs to keep things squeaky clean as he can this season. No more yellow cards, please, Bowden. Yeah, the depth at lock, it's the one kind of unknown with the squad, but there's enough there that it's not something to worry about. It's just kind of watching how these guys step up to the plate with the absences of Abbott, especially. Strength of schedule, they have the 7th toughest run, so kind of middling in terms of difficulty. They avoid the Stormers and the Waratahs, which kind of matches their strength of schedule in that there are stronger teams that you could avoid, and then there are weaker teams that you would have liked to have played, kind of thing. So, I mean, realistically, I don't think the Hurricanes are the kind of team that needs to worry about who they're avoiding. It's probably other teams that go in. Like the Stormers and the Tars are probably pretty happy they avoided the Hurricanes, to be fair. The schedule doesn't treat them that kindly at the start, because the first game they're away to the Bulls, and then they immediately transfer to Argentina. So away in South Africa, and then away to South America, and then they do come home and play a home game against the Crusaders. I mean, that's tough. That's a lot of time zone changes, and like the increasing difficulty is not ideal. So not all that kind. Then they do get a bye. So at least from there they can kind of catch up. But I feel like those first 3 weeks will be a bit of a test for them. And they do have a kind of long run towards the end of the season where they go 6 games, then the June Internationals, and then 3 games. So they'll have a few guys in the All Blacks, so there could be some tired legs come the business end of the season. But looking at this squad, you'd still think they're going to be there or thereabouts. Expectations-wise, it's pretty sky high, isn't it? If they're not in a final, you'd say the players and possibly a lot of the fans will be disappointed. They'll want to be pushing the Crusaders for that top New Zealand Conference spot. I'm sure they'd not want to be travelling to another away game for a semi-final like last year. So that'll definitely be the goal. If they only get second in the New Zealand Conference, I think you'd still give them a pass because the Crusaders are still going to be strong. And if any lower than that, I think you'd start saying, well, it's been a bit of a poor year, and then there'll be questions about where the mindset was at with the coach leaving and whatnot. But yeah, I think they'll have a strong year. If the Blues are going to pick up a first win against the New Zealand team for a while, I'm doubtful whether it will be the Hurricanes because they look pretty strong. All right, that is it from me for this one, and I'll continue going through the last few teams in the next few days. All right, I'll catch you guys later.